What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Countercultural Life Podcast. Me and my amazing co-host, producer, do-it-all guy, Noah. We are here again, ready to talk about what's going on in the day. We're always going to talk about the four areas: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. But we're also going to bring in other elements, leadership, just different things. And we want to talk about something that by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be a little bit behind us. But let's talk a little bit about this is the day after the Super Bowl and the halftime show and a Super Bowl. Let me just be real. Look, I was one of the guys that plays Jaron Reed is on the Seahawks. I was around the coaches with him in high school. So I was affiliated with the team. He came out of high school at Goldsboro, North Carolina. Shout out to the borough. So he's a Facebook friend, and I have a picture of him on my Facebook of him holding the trophy. So Jaron Reed, by way of Alabama. So even though I'm not a Crimson Tide fan, I'm a Jaron Reed fan. Anyway,
Roll
Super Bowl.
Tide.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. Don't ever say that again. I kind of just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Anyway, I sent him a message. I did send him a message after that. Said, "Hey man, when are you going to talk about leadership on my podcast?" So we'll see if he responds. I would say those two words you just said to get him on the podcast, but who knows? So we're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Strange Super Bowl to me, in that I wasn't excited about it, other than a guy that I don't, he probably doesn't even know who I am now, but a guy that I was around a little bit and was around affiliated with the team he was on. That was the only interesting part to me. I'm kind of wanted to see what the Patriots were going to do. I kind of like this new era. I'm not a Patriots fan. I am a Bill Belichick fan. I am a leadership guy. So Bill Belichick, one of the greatest football leaders I think that was ever out there. So anyway, other than that, but let's talk about, because we have a pop culture aficionado on the show that we don't leverage his skills as much as we should. So let's talk about the Bad Bunny halftime show. A little bit. What are your thoughts? Pop culture aficionado.
Okay, so from from top to bottom, I'm gonna go from the beginning, from when they announced. Uh, I was all for it from the beginning. I was like, this is gonna be different. This is gonna be sick. Uh, because I'm not a Bad Bunny fan at all. Like I don't listen to his music. I don't really know that much about him, but what I do know is he's one of the biggest artists in the world. And I knew, what's the NFL trying to do? They're trying to reach an international audience. It's very clear. We're about to have a first game in Australia next year. My Denver Broncos, they played in Great Britain this year, beat the Jets by like 4 points in an awful rain destroyed game.
Yep,
Anyway,
I remember.
which was on a Sunday morning while I was playing in the band, and I was like watching the game in between when we had the in between services. I was in backstage watching the game because I don't miss any Broncos games.
I just pictured you watching the
Not while I
game.
was playing, not while I
Okay,
was playing,
that's what
but
I pictured.
I was using my phone to control the multi-tracks that day, or else I would have been really tempted to have the game on while I was playing bass.
See, another reason why he's
But
the greatest
anyway,
producer ever, he can actually watch a game, run multi tracks on his phone while playing the bass. That's why he does what he does. That's why you're awesome. All right, back to the.
I have when we had Saturday night service, there would be League of Legends playoff games during service, and I would have it on over to the side so I could just check in on the score whenever I could. So, um, but anyway, so I was down. And then I also think, like, at the end of the day, the halftime show has become just a thing that happens. And nobody that's already watching football is watching the Super Bowl because of the halftime show or because of the commercials. The thing that the Super Bowl does great, or has done great, and we can talk about the commercials later because I think it's important. But like, it brings people that don't watch football, and it's like, this is this thing, and we're gonna do all these awesome things, and it's gonna be a great time. You're gonna watch it. You're gonna have a great time. There's gonna be these sections for you in between the football, and during the football, you can talk to your friends, or whatever. So, which is great. And I think that trying to have somebody that's like one of the biggest artists in the world is great. And then it immediately was inflammatory to so many people for seemingly no reason. I've really tried to dig into why, um, which can get really political, and I don't want to get too political, but at the end of the day, a lot of people really upset that he didn't speak English, saying that he's not a real American, that it's an American pastime, which is just like dumb. Like we need to try to broaden our international horizons. I mean, like I don't know. It just is like a dumb idea. And then you're coming up to it, and then I think you're remiss to not mention the alternative halftime show, which decided, which I'm firmly against, um, on the basis of, uh, man, this could get deep, but something my dad said a long time ago, my dad, who I highly respect, who's a great thinker, and something he has said before is that um, when Christians got a foothold a little bit in America, they tried to fight a culture war to make all culture like Christianity, and they lost the culture war that they shouldn't have even been fighting. It was not a war worth fighting because we're supposed to go out into the world and try to make the world see Jesus. We're not supposed to go into the world and force our ideals on everybody and think that that's going to work. So, um, thinking through that, you have this alternative halftime show, which is an idea by two people that I have lost a lot of respect for in the last year, being Forrest Frank and Corey Asbury. But I don't need to get on that soapbox right now. But luckily, they decided that they didn't want to do it, and I have a lot of respect for them now after seeing what it ended up being. That they decided not to do it, and then they announced Kid Rock is going to be it for the Christian alternative halftime show that is broadcasting on TBN. And it really polarized this whole thing where it's like, oh, if you're, and I didn't have people saying this because a lot of people just think it's dumb, but the online discourse, especially on like Twitter and stuff, was, oh, if you're a Christian, you're gonna watch this halftime show because the other one's gonna be immoral and bad. And Kid Rock literally opens his set. I watched it a little bit. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a little bit of it. He opens his set talking about strippers and beer and his truck and whatever, and then tags on, it's a Cody Johnson song that he starts with. And then he says, I woke up one morning and I just had this verse on my mind to add to it. And then he adds like a Christian verse to the song about dusting off your Bible. And I'm like, bro, what are we doing here? Like we've lost the plot so dramatically. But anyway, on the flip side, we have this halftime show, which is like we're the all American halftime show. Bad Bunny's not an American. He's not speaking English. So we're going to do this alternative Christian one. Then you have Bad Bunny. He goes out, and it is, I mean, I've seen all the people dissecting it, and just the more I learned about it, I love it even more. Um, the whole set takes him through, and for people that don't know, Bad Bunny's Puerto Rican, and it goes through like Puerto Ricans working in the sugar fields, and then like the culture coming. It's so cool, like the visual of the culture coming out of the sugar field, and a lot of people were talking about like this is just a sick celebration of a culture that I'm not in. I think I said that last night, but then I've seen other people like do that, and they're like, "This is just a really cool celebration of a culture. I'm not in it, but I can catch a vibe. This is fun. Like he's having a good time." And there were some inappropriate elements to it. Nothing worse than the normal halftime show at all. Like there was nothing. The halftime show is usually a little risque, and there was nothing worse than
There
normal.
was no wardrobe
Um,
malfunctions or
no wardrobe malfunctions. There was some really sick shooting. Like the shots are so awesome, the cinematography, and um, just a lot of cultural references, and then ending the set with uh, a powerful. Uh, I forget the exact wording now, but like just the for only words in English the whole time. Um, all right, I'm gonna have to look it up because I don't want to mess it up. I posted it on my Instagram story and I forgot. Um,
what you're looking for. This is just another example of why I think with young folks like you that we are in safe hands. Just the way you described that, just the way you said, hey, let's not, basically what I heard you saying is let's not get caught up in all the other stuff. And I did not watch either of them. And I'll tell you my reasoning in a minute, mainly because I was tired and wanted to go to bed, but there was more to it than that. But anyway, what did you post?
Well, he ends the whole set with something that in certain circles is really funny, but like as a joke, but he kind of lists every country in South and North America. And then has on his football that he's been holding the whole time, he puts it out and it says, "Together we are America." And then on the screen, the only other words in English the whole time are, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love." So you've got this guy who has been, we have our president tweeting about him, saying he's not an American and that he's a disgrace to, like, that the football shouldn't, they shouldn't have him. And he decides to go out there and just put the message that love is more powerful than hate, which is like everything that embodies Jesus. Like, even if he's not a Christian, that embodies Jesus. And then on the other halftime show, you have We're Better Than Everyone Else. They have that disgusting Puerto Rican sinner who's not even a real American. And we have Kid Rock who loves Jesus. And it's like, that's so it made me happy. It made me feel so good inside. And it made, like, I've seen a lot of like conservatives be like, this, he didn't, it was cool. It was fun. It was,
So it
and
goes
the,
back to it goes
anyway,
back to what you said though. We have lost the plot. We've lost the
I,
plot.
yes, I think that people are waking up to it a little bit though. I think that there's a lot happening right now in the world politically that is reshaping a lot of what people think, um, about people, like that people are just human and that you can't put all your trust in one person to.
Yeah, I struggled because me and you have had these conversations before. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I pay attention to other things, and I truly believe that much of the world right now is in a psyop. And you can dig into psyop and figure out what that means. But it's like we're own, purposely being pitted against each other. Like it's like there's division that's created and fostered and stoked constantly. And I sit here going, I see friends that are on both sides that are Christ followers saying some really crazy stuff. And I'm like,
I'd say
I
heinous. I think heinous is a good word to describe
yeah,
the things that people are saying
yeah, you're
on
like,
both sides.
yeah, and it blows my mind because, like I said, these are Christ followers, and I know they love Jesus, but at the same time, it goes right back to what we just talked about. I think we've lost the plot, and that's so frustrating and sometimes disheartening. And that's the reason I didn't watch either one of them. I'm like, look, I really like, I'm with you with Bad Bunny. I had no idea who he was. I didn't really care what anybody else said about him. I do my best to not get caught up in the division and hype. So I did not allow myself to do that. I love the way you explained why you watched it, and I love the way you broke it down. And I think if we had more people that would be just kind of take their defensive posture, step back a little bit from their defensive posture and just be more open to seeing the things around you. And people will hate on me and you for even talking about it. Like if people watch this podcast, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, these guys say they're Christians." You got one that watched Bad Bunny and one that says he just didn't watch. Yeah,
I don't think so though. I don't think that, like, real people, like, first of all, it was very obvious that TPUSA was view botting, um, because they had 5 million people watching and the live chat on it was super slow, which is
so
like a telltale sign that they
so
were view
give the
botting.
older generation break down what you just what you meant by that.
So, like, you can pay people that just have, like, they're called bot farms, and it's just a ton of computers that run YouTube accounts, and they can just make all of them watch something. So if you see something where there's like a live stream that has a live chat, this is like a thing that happens in like the gaming streaming community where people will accuse people of view botting if they have a lot of viewers but not a lot of chat. because it's hard to fake the chats, but it's easy to fake the viewer, like very easy. And so it seems like that the alternative halftime show was that, and even like it doesn't seem like people really wanted to die on that hill as much as the loudest voices would make you think. So
Yeah.
I don't think, I think that there are things that I could say right now that people would be upset about. But I don't think that just by watching it, people would I don't think real people, if that makes sense. Like there are people that have lost, like the people that have really lost the plot, um, maybe them. But I think most people aren't like, at least I'm believing that most people aren't gonna be like mad about it. Like that it's just a thing. And even if you watched the other one because you like Kid Rock, I got no problem with you. That I was joking with Reagan about how like every year everyone's like, man, it should have been this band. Like it should have been Eric Clapton. And it's like, dude, Eric Clapton's not selling out. Like that'd be sick. There are bands that I would love to see, but they're not it. And I was like, one dude who's a giant Kid Rock fan doesn't care, have a lick of care about politics, but he's just a big Kid Rock fan. This is the night of his life. He finally got it, his wish of his small, like relatively small artist being the halftime show.
Yeah.
For
It's,
me, it would be like if they finally did, if they did like, if they, when they finally do Metallica, that's how I'm going to feel.
I wonder if they would ever, anyway, that would get me going on a whole different tangent there if they ever did Metallica. But it was funny because I, I'm not, I just don't pay attention to certain things. And somebody was like, yeah, and then Green Day's opening. Of course, Green Day's opening. I was like, is Green Day hyper political too? Did I miss that? It was like, yeah, American Idiot. And I'm like, dude, I never listened to Green Day's music for that. Now, if you would have told me like Rage Against the Machine was opening, I'd have been like, oh, okay, I can't listen to Rage Against the Machine. I end up wanting to fight people every time I listen to it. Used to be one of my favorite bands, and I did determine that it made me mentally a more violent person. So,
For sure. It
but
makes
I
sense.
love some Zach De La Roca though. But it's just anyway. Yeah, I just wish we would spend less time arguing about stuff that doesn't matter. We spend too much time arguing and creating division over stuff that really doesn't matter. So,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
There's been, I saw somebody talk online about how, in the early to late 90s, basically, when like we look back at a lot of like movies and stuff, and there's a lot of like people doing accents, like offensive accents, like black people, white people making fun of each other in movies, and people look back on that and are offended by it now and are like, this hasn't aged well. But I saw people that were older being like, during that time, it felt like racism was solved. Like we were making fun of each other. There was more unity. Do you feel like that's accurate from your perspective that racism has gotten worse as like it feels like there's manufactured things to divide us and pre-internet like right pre-internet things were getting better or were better?
It's hard for me to truly comment on that as a white American male. It seemed that way, and I would say now it seems worse and more hyper sensationalized by social media and by cameras everywhere. So maybe it was just as bad, but we didn't realize it. But yeah, I think my age demographic, and of course I can speak for my age demographic, we weren't as easily offendable as a lot of other demographics have seemed like they're more easily offended. I think I think Gen X, we always talk about, how tough we were. I just don't think we were offended by a whole lot. I think we were just used to it. Like, so does that make it right or wrong? I don't know. But it seems like it has gotten worse. But is the social media and um, all media outlets and the focus on division, because division, hey, sells tickets, and division gets people to tune in, and division creates, it sells ads. So I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question. What
I
do you
think
think?
part of it too has to do with cultural counterswings.
Mm,
And I think that part of what has made racism and bigotry and everything that like online aggression was the big hyper woke microaggressions movement, like that everyone was getting canceled for everything. We're gonna dig into everything you've ever said and all that. And I almost wonder, um, as we've seen over time, it's like we can document and see where the zeitgeist was as
Mm.
things swung back and forth, and this feels like a response to that. Um, but and it's as always, and this is why I think it's so hard to affiliate with a political party, and I just don't understand why people do. Um, there's the correct answer somewhere in the middle. The
Yeah.
correct answer is somewhere like in between being able to have said something 10 years ago that was mildly racist and that you thought it was funny at the time that no one cared about back then, and also saying heinous stuff now. Like there's a balance between cancel culture and anti-woke culture, and like it seeped into everything and it's exhausting
I mean,
to
if you
deal
look
with.
at two of the biggest voices right now, um, white and black, two of the loudest voices right now are Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle, and they're both my age. They're both my demographic. So it's like, what does that say? Does that say that those two dudes are not worried about getting canceled, and they just tell it like it is? So does that? And I don't know. Maybe that's the connection of my demographic. I don't know. Maybe there's something in that. Um,
Yeah, I think that would be a good, those are good tests, but I think that that also for me Joe Rogan is a bit of a culture vulture mildly, and he kind of just swings with where the culture's going.
mm,
And it comes across, I do think I don't think that he's like bought off or um I think he has a little bit of the Trump where the last person that he talked to is the smartest person he's ever talked to,
mm.
is how I feel that like if Joe Rogan has a string of left leaning guests, suddenly he's like a little more left leaning, and it's that kind of seems like with him. Dave Chappelle does not care about anything or anyone, and he's gonna say whatever he wants, and he's gonna be hilarious doing it, and he's gonna get another Netflix special, and he's gonna make $1 billion, and he's great. I love
Did
Dave Chappelle.
Did you watch his last Netflix special?
I don't really have Netflix, so
Uh,
I watch clips sometimes. I've watched a lot of the old Dave Chappelle specials.
yeah,
Um, I've watched a lot of his Comedy Central stuff too. So,
very interesting take
um,
he had on the world in his last one. It was very Dave Chappelle-esque. So if you get a chance, check it out. Um, I'm a big Sean Ryan fan, and I think my connection to Sean Ryan is the military mentality. He's got that military mentality where we were taught to critically think and kind of question everything. And a lot of us saw things that caused us to question while we were serving. And he had this guy on his show recently. I'll get his name wrong. I want to say Alan Lester. That's probably not right. But this dude recently wrote a book, and that's called Maybe We're the Bad Guys. And it is some of the stuff that he talks about is so provocative and so um, I just couldn't stop listening to the podcast. So we're gonna have to talk about that at some point. Great insight on, and he's talking about as America, maybe we're the bad guys. And I was like, and even as a patriot, because I would consider myself a patriot, I signed up to die for my country and would have without question. Um, but I've seen things and I wonder sometimes, like mm, maybe we're getting it wrong. Maybe we've lost the plot. So
yeah. Well, that segues really well into another question I had for you, which is I saw somebody, ex-military person, defending, I think Hunter Hess is his name. Are you familiar with Hunter Hess, the Olympian?
uh,
Have you
just
heard about him?
just what I saw that Trump tweeted that he was a loser. That's kind of all the thing
Yeah.
I said. Okay.
Oh, somebody just gotta take his phone away, for real. Like, anyway, but he said something about how there's a lot of things going on in America right now, and that it's hard to think about everything that's going on back in America while representing them, even though he's grateful for the opportunity, basically. Um, and everyone lost their minds about it because they're like, then you can just come home. We didn't have to send you. Which, come to find out, America is one of the only countries in the world that the Olympians are not state funded. Fun fact, they're funded by private donors and organizations and
That's
charitable
interesting.
organizations. Yeah. So they actually aren't even being sent by the government. But then I saw a military guy who was like, um, because they were like, he shouldn't be able to wear the flag if he's going to disrespect America like that. And then there was a military guy that was like, posted a picture of like a bunch of guys around a table, like an old picture of a bunch of military guys around a table. And he was like, some of the most intense political battles that I've ever had were in the battlefield around a table with this group of guys. And without a question, we still, even though we each had our own different issues with what was going on, we used our freedom to talk about it and try to work toward it. And we all still would have died for our country without a question.
Yep.
And I'm just, does that sound right to you? Like,
Yes, 100%. I lost friends over Colin Kaepernick because people thought that I was going to have one opinion, and my opinion was they was like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about him kneeling in the national anthem?" I said, "I fought for the freedoms that allowed him to do that," and I lost friends. They were like, "I can't believe you said that." And I'm like, "Well, it's just true." I mean, because you have to be able to take a step back and say, "Hey, what did I fight for?" And I fought for the freedoms to allow people to have freedom of speech. And just because a dude kneels during the national anthem has no bearing on me. I could care less. I really could. I will not kneel. I will always stand and I will always salute the flag. So that has no bearing on me. But I did sign and was willing to die over those freedoms that gave him the ability and right to do that. So I agree with that gentleman's take that you just shared the story about. It's also so fun. I think kind of on that same note, the military is very good at helping you understand diversity because you really will be on the same team with people that don't talk like you, look like you, act like you, and you have a mission to become a team so the individual characteristics go away. My only issue with the whole pronoun thing was when the Air Force, and they rescinded this, they were allowing people to use pronouns in their signature block. Why was I against that? Because the military is about team, not individuals. So I don't need to know what your pronouns are. I need to know if you're on the team. And that was really the only pushback I had about that. It's just it's so crazy what we allow ourselves to waste energy on. And anyway, yeah, great question.
and from my perspective, I grew up in a really politically tumultuous time with Obama, and I live in West Virginia, and Obama, whatever, with him, he was horrible for the state. Like the West Virginians hate Obama, not out of racism, not out of like he came in and he regulated coal a lot, and it wrecked the state. And whatever, if that needed to happen, I don't know enough to delve into that. But just growing up, I think that it's really important and something that I'm gonna really prioritize when I have kids. Like I shouldn't have been worried about that. I remember like there was a period of time where I would refuse to do the Pledge of Allegiance because I was like, I don't want to say the thing about uh whatever, like honoring the president or whatever is in it. It's been a long time since I said the Pledge of Allegiance. Now I think about it, but and that's crazy for like a fifth grader to even have that thought in their mind at all. And I think it's really important, like as I like teach youth and stuff, like we're having to deal with like kids having political debates, and they're like in seventh grade, and I'm like, you you shouldn't be a diehard Trump fan at 12. Like
Right.
that shouldn't even register. And I think that this is part of the, personality of Trump and how he has fans more than he even has constituents. Like it feels like. But I think it's bad no matter what. I think it's bad on both sides. I think that there are probably kids out there with Zoran Mamdani shirts on. And that's just I like no matter what, I think that there's things that you just need to, especially when they can't vote. I mean, I think whoever you voted for when you first were voting, that doesn't count. You didn't know anything. You shouldn't know anything. You should go in there, you should pick a name blind the first time you vote, and then you have 4 years to get knowledge before the next one. And that's when you start being in politics, when it matters and when you care.
When
And you know,
well, you said a key thing, when you get knowledge, when you get knowledge, that's the key thing. During the last presidential race, I was involved in some political debates, and I would ask a couple of questions. I would say, where are you getting your information from? And if your information wasn't diversified, I didn't listen to you. So if you just said CNN, I'm like, okay. If you just said Fox News, I was like, okay, I'm not listening to you. And then I would ask a follow-up question. I would say, who are your political candidates in your local area? And if they couldn't answer that question, I once again would not have a conversation with them. Because if you don't know who your local politicians are, shut up about voting for the president. Because you really, when you understand how it works, you probably need to know who your local candidates are, and you probably got to get locked in with voting on who to vote for in that space. And you probably want to know how the electoral college works. So I didn't have time for people arguing about who they wanted to be the president. I just chose not to because I was like, and I even had there was one with my family where everybody around the table was kind of going back and forth. And I said, and I saw the temperatures heating up and people starting to get a little frustrated. And I was like, look, y'all, in the big scheme of things, none of us at this table have any right to talk politics because we are not informed. We're informed by social media, and that is not information. And I stopped it right there. And that's kind of how I feel with a lot of people. Like, unless you truly have knowledge to weigh in on the topic, then shut your mouth because all you're doing is creating more division and you're creating more hostility between people. And it just, we don't have time for that anymore. There's too much of it. How did we get all the way over here? But I love it.
okay. I do want to push back on one small little thing.
Okay.
Um, in the day and age we live in, almost all premium information is paywalled.
Mm.
And you can find people that are good sources on social media and YouTube and podcasts
Okay.
that take information and you really got to vet them. Like, but if you can find some people, I don't think that it's an automatic disqualification if you do get your news from social media because there's a lot of I think it's a disqualification if you get your news from one source, one person. You need to be able to like you should be able to if you're gonna have an opinion, you should be able to explain both sides. And
Yeah.
I'll plug. I'm not on Instagram anymore very much, but both sides news on Instagram is a guy who he like goes like this and this, and he has the argument from both sides on the screen. And it's great. And it's a great way. And then you form your own opinion. And then you say, in my worldview, which for us, you and I, this is our worldview is a Christ-centered Christian worldview. Where do I fit in? Where does my belief in Jesus and my belief in my morals and my beliefs, where do I fit in on this? And it should not always be on one side. There should be one or two things that you ride or die. There's a
Listen,
classic
if I'm a
Dustin
Christian, I should
Nicholson
be
joke.
a red-blooded Republican, son. That's what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
No, exactly. Yeah. It blows people's minds when they ask me what I am because they assume white male used to have a big truck, don't have a big truck anymore. White male, retired military, automatic assumption that I'm a conservative Republican. And I'm like, no, I'm
pastor.
independent. Yeah. Yeah. Pastor. Yeah. I throw that in. Yeah. You definitely got to be no, I'm an independent. And I always say I vote my values. I will vote my values before I vote a candidate. So, uh, you put the plug for both sides. My plug is for
Besides news.
both sides news. My plug is for ground news. Ground news is my favorite spot that I just found out about recently that gives you what side, how much of what side the news is coming from, and also shows blind spots for the sides. I'm like, man, this is really good. So it's the news app that I've always wanted and never knew existed. So, all right, we're 35, coming up on 35 minutes. We say we're going to go short form. We always go long form. I'm still cool with that.
35 is good. 35 is a sweet spot.
Let's close out with a question about and I'm going to answer mine because I'm going to answer it first because mine's going to be really quick and you'll probably like it. But then
Okay.
I want what movie have you watched recently and what did you love about it? How did it speak to you? I'm going to start with the first one. Mine was Whiplash. I watched Whiplash recently.
Okay. I haven't watched it yet, so I mean I know everything about it, but I haven't had the chance
Phenomenal.
to sit down.
I
Yeah.
understand why it was Kobe Bryant's favorite movie. And anybody who is a
Yes.
Kobe Bryant
Yes.
fan will understand why Whiplash is Kobe Bryant's favorite movie. And yes, I want to watch it again just so I can get fired up like I was watching that movie. All right, pop culture
So
aficionado.
yeah, let me preface this real quick. I had the idea for this whole segment where every episode I'm gonna say what a movie I recommend that I've watched since last time we recorded. Because if you remember from the goals episode, I'm watching a lot of movies this year, and I'm actually watching way more than I said I was gonna watch. I've watched 27 movies so far this year, and it is February 10th. So I'm cooking.
And
Um,
interestingly, though, 27 movies in, we are going to talk about time management because he seems to be struggling. Young Noah seems to be struggling with time management. So I
well,
can't
and the
tell.
thing is, but I'm off Instagram, which
Yeah.
has freed up so much. I did not even understand, and I'm playing less video games, so it's like, and I'm watching less YouTube. It's just transitioning the time I was spending.
Mm,
Um, the specific thing that I really with the time management thing was also just to make learning fun. How do you make learning fun? So instead of
mm,
watching movies, I read a book or
yeah.
something, which I am going to get caught up on reading. But um, so my movie that I'm going to say, and this is, let me look at my diary and let's see. Um, oh, this is really hard. I'm torn between two. I'm gonna recommend two. One that
Okay.
I'm recommending, hardcore recommending. One that I'm gonna put a asterisk on. The one I'm gonna put an asterisk on is very much what we've been talking about today, about two people on opposite sides of the political spectrum, and it is a movie called Begonia, and it is a 2026 Best Picture nominated movie.
Mm,
It is a emotional horror movie. It is extremely gory and grotesque. So I'm prefacing this, and it has a lot of language in it. So it's not a movie that I would recommend to everybody. Um, but it's really good. And I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it. But you have a person that is a CEO of a big company who just speaks in corporate speak the whole time, and then you have a conspiracy theorist that is convinced that she's an alien and kidnaps her to get her to take him to her mothership because he's convinced that she's an alien. That's all I'm gonna say. It is amazing. It is currently my front runner for Best Picture. It's my favorite of the ones I've seen. I'm trying to watch all 10. I've watched 6 of the 10. Um,
but it is a horror
it's
movie.
great. I'm saying it's a horror movie. It's not like jump scare horror but it's horrific. It is a horrific movie. Um, it sits with you. So, but it's really good, and I just think it's good. It's interesting to have. It's an interesting piece of media. But again, I will not recommend this to everybody. If you don't like, if you get squeamish at all, if you don't like language, it's a very like, you know.
But
But the one I will recommend for
it's not a
everyone,
horror movie though. I gotta make sure because I don't watch horror movies. Psychological
you got to
thrillers.
watch it.
Yeah.
You don't get a choice. You have to watch it.
Okay.
I don't like horror movies either, and I loved it.
Okay.
So it's not. It's like psychological thriller with grotesque amounts of gore.
Okay. Okay. So
So,
Begonia.
but I got through it. I if I got through it, anybody. I'm not a horror movie guy. I'm actually. It's one of my other like things. I want to become more of a horror movie guy. I want to get over that fear of horror movies. But this is not. I think it's just technically a horror movie.
Ah. Okay.
My recommendation to everyone is the 1954 film Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock, where a guy is solves a murder with a broken leg and he's stuck in his apartment. So all he can do is look out his rear window at the apartment complex and see everyone around him. And he tries to solve a murder during that. And it is awesome. It is a great movie. It has the late, great Grace Kelly in it, if
Mm.
you're familiar with her work in a lot of movies. It was unbelievable. I believe when I finish my 51 and 2026 list, I'm going to shuffle my top four favorite movies of all time. Rear Window is currently up there to be one of the replacements and to be
Wow.
in there. And I'm gonna rewatch all four of my current top four as well, in anticipation of that. But um, it was really good. It's just a really great movie. It's a really easy watch, but it has amazing cinematography. Um, without spoiling too much, but every shot is either from his perspective or of him. So you only get information that is from him, from his perspective, or you are looking at him, which is just an amazing cinematic choice. And Alfred Hitchcock is one of the great directors of all time.
Yep.
Um, so those are my two movie recommendations for this time. And next time we'll see
Begonia
what I have
and Rear
cooking.
Window. Got it.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah,
Countercultural Life podcast. Signing out. Go watch
it's a
some
crazy
movies.
episode this week. We
Yeah.
talked a lot about this is a fun little this is like a Noah episode, which is kind of funny. This is the first ever Noah episode, it feels
Listen,
like.
and I'm here for it. I'm here. I enjoyed it greatly. You had great questions and we talked about a lot of good stuff. And it was some great perspective from two age demographics, and I loved it. I think it was great, and people need to hear more of this. People need to be able and willing to have conversations where they might not necessarily always agree, but can we have a conversation where we both leave and we still love each other and we're still going to change the world? Yes and amen. All right.
Got to keep talking.
Got to keep talking. Countercultural life. Peace.
Peace.